Welcome to episode 28 of the Danso Pitch pod. I am your host, Charles Danso, joined by my good friend Ramy. Ramy, how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good, man. You got lots of energy. You got me pumped up already. Once I heard you coming out the gate, I'm excited.
I'm fucking ready today. I'm feeling good. I had a nice workout this morning. This week kicked my ass, so I'm definitely ready to kick some ass on this pod today. Let's go.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. What we gonna be talking about today?
Today we're gonna take it to Africa. We're gonna discuss the richest man in Africa. A lot of people may not know this man, but we're gonna definitely give the info for the audience today. So the man's name is Aliko Dangote. Do you know about this man, Ramy?
I've heard about him. I mean, Aliko Dangote. Yes, I've heard about him. You've mentioned him to me, actually. You put me on last year.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely for the audience, definitely tuning in. A lot of people are probably listening like, Dangote. Well, who's that? We definitely here to give the info. For those that's tuning in for our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any audio, and our YouTube streaming platform at the Danso Pitch. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We got a jam-packed episode for you guys today. I want you guys to get your notepad. You guys definitely, wherever you're listening to, whether you're home, in your car, at work right now, definitely take a minute, take a listen. This is definitely going to be some valuable information for today. So let's start it off, Ramy, for the audience. Let's give a little back information on this man, this great individual, Aliko Dangote. He grew up in Nigeria, in the Kano state, Nigeria. He was raised in a Muslim household, and he's actually from an upper class family. His grandfather, Sanusi Dantata, if I pronounced that wrong, my apologies. He once was named one of the wealthiest people living in Kano, Nigeria. He made his fortune. This is his grandpa, selling commodities like oats and rice. Dantata basically adopted Dangote in 1965 after his father passed away at the age of 9. When Dangote was 21, after he finished his studies in college, he basically wanted to go the entrepreneurial route. He basically went to his uncle at the time and asked for $3,000 to basically start his agricultural commodities business in Nigeria. And he actually ended up paying his uncle back the full $3,000 at the time. And now you guys looking back in the early 70s, like mid 70s, at the time, $3,000 in a country like Nigeria, that was a lot of money. So,
hell yeah.
So for his uncle definitely take that gamble on his nephew, that was definitely a big risk. But Dangote definitely paid dividends. He was able to pay back his uncle quickly in the span of just a couple months, and his business basically took off at the time. So basically, he started the Dangote Group, which is basically the largest private sector business in Nigeria right now, and is basically the largest conglomerate business in West Africa right now.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about this part's really important in his story. From what I've read and gathered about him, is that he did come from a wealthy family, and yet he was able to elevate that family to a much higher place by this loan. He took one loan from his uncle and was able to pay it back in 3 months because he was making that much money. But this was really the turning point for him, and probably the earliest sign of him displaying that entrepreneurial mindset was he took that and then he started to import like commodities at wholesale prices, and then he was selling them at a markup in his local villages. And he became so successful. He was importing things like sugar and rice from different countries for dirt cheap, flipping them in his local market, and he was able to pay his uncle back so quickly. But I think what's really key here is that he didn't just stop there. He also found a successful business model, and then he continued to expand to these heights that he's at now by finding new needs and filling those needs himself instead of having to be a middleman. And I think that was really key.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like you said, Ramy, I mean, especially at that time, being so young, definitely taking a risk like that. Definitely it's something that a lot of individuals wouldn't take that chance. For me, I don't necessarily shun at him coming from a wealthy family, so to speak. because there are individuals, as we know, I'm not going to say the president, that comes from a wealthy family, but doesn't necessarily find success in any of his business ventures.
Absolutely.
I think it's definitely a kudos to Dangote because of the fact he was able to basically have the drive, have the wherewithal to basically invest in the right need at the time, especially in a third world country like Nigeria at the time,
which probably has a lot of needs that could use filling, you know.
Exactly. Especially having like rice, like you said, rice, sugar. These are things that even I know to this day is scarce in some of these villages back home. And I can say that because of the fact being, obviously we're both foreigners, so we come from different foreign countries. So our parents come from foreign countries, so we definitely been there. We've seen how it's like, especially when you go to the poorer parts.
Right. Where are you from, Charles?
From Ghana. Yeah.
Okay.
Ghana. So definitely for him to have this success, I definitely know that was something where he was hustling the right way, because again, like I said, even to this day, in some of the villages back home, it is hard to get certain foods and sugars, like how he was basically importing this from different areas.
And he was getting them from places where these things were abundant, you know? So finding sugar and rice in the middle or central Africa would be difficult, but he was importing them from places like Thailand and Brazil. And here's where I think he's really the most interesting person in terms of his business profile, is that after a while, he was making already so much money being a middleman. You know, he was importing from one place, selling to the people, paying back his suppliers, but he eventually started producing so much, and he would reinvest money into his own business instead of spending it or, you know, doing whatever. He would reinvest, and he started producing the things that he was importing. So it's more costly to, you know, import and to buy it from someone else when you could make it yourself. So he would reinvest billions of his own dollars, and he eventually produced plants that were producing sugar, flour, salt, and stuff like that. And then he became so big with producing the stuff, he even started building the packaging for it, so that he was like his whole self-sufficient model. So I think that is really a good model to follow that has led him to success.
Yeah, he even he quotes he had a quote where he was like, in his earlier years when he was like in his 20s, 30s, 40s, he didn't even take a vacation one time. And then people were like the interview, I think he did this for Forbes. The interviewer was like, yeah, she read that, like, yeah, she was like, you never took a vacation once, because he was like, yeah. He was like, why, like what you basically said, why is he going to take the money that he basically can reinvest and build out his business to basically have the luxury life? He said when he's able to do so, once he actually acquiesces the wealth that he wanted, then he'll start taking a vacation. Now he's in his 60s, and he takes a vacation every other week. Like, so imagine that, like just having that ability to do so. And I think that's important. One thing Ramy noted that I want to also point out to the audience is what you said, reinvesting a lot of your capital, the revenue that you make from your business. That's important for any business owner, is reinvesting a lot of the money. You're going to make good money in basically any business that you basically do. But those that basically reinvest and build out a line, like he said, he was first going to different countries and bringing these agricultural foods in, basically like sugar and all those other things. But eventually, after acquiescing amount of wealth, reinvesting it, he started to actually build out his own products. He had built his own factories where he was able to source these products and basically ship them over parts of Africa. I think even the Dangote Group right now is in like 10 different countries in Africa, which is really, really hard to do. Especially for my Africans, my foreigners listening, trying to get a different country's government in a country like a continent like Africa is difficult to do. So for him to do that is definitely a testament to the drive, the focus, the ability to reinvest his money and have the right political connections to basically have these contracts where he's able to have these different type of products being pushed in these different countries in a large continent like Africa. So that's also important. Also, one thing is about 80% of his conglomerate revenue comes from Dangote Cement. So he also does cement out of the Dangote Group.
That's actually his biggest, like, if you ask him what's his business, that would probably be most of his operating income would be from the cement company.
From the cement company. And a lot of people that may ask why maybe cement, well, it's the landscape of Africa. Africa right now, a lot of times we're dealing with real estate.
A lot of construction.
Yeah, so that's very important. And a lot of the businesses, a lot of the government officials in these various countries in Africa actually go to this man, Dangote, and basically his business, and then ask, in terms of if they can get the supply through his business and thus forth. So, I mean, that's, like he said, that's about 80% of his revenue right now. And you have to think, this man is worth about 10 billion. So you're thinking they're taking about 80%. He's nearly making about 6 billion, close to 5-6 billion just off of his cement business alone.
He's actually, on the Forbes list right now as of present day. He's 162 in the world of richest people, and he is the number one in Africa. But get this, he owns 85% of the stake in his publicly traded Dangote Cement. So 85% of a multi-billion-dollar company that's operating in multiple countries, that is bank. That is a lot. They're the continent's largest cement producer as well. So it's just crazy. You can list a ton of different industries that his conglomerate is taking place in, but all of them kind of feed off of each other. You've got structural cement construction work. You've got refineries now producing the things that you can then produce at your factories. It's insane. So I was reading this interview that he had with Time back in 2014, and they were asking him about what he does differently, because a lot of people have that entrepreneurial mindset and have money. But to keep that kind of success, that kind of model, what did he do differently? And this quote was just really interesting, and again highlights what he does. He said that we had a lot of capital and we were able to build out our own power grid. The number one thing that kills businesses in Africa is power, or the lack of power. We wanted to have our business completely independent with our own grid, so we built it, and it took $1.2 billion. That's an important lesson I took from the financial crisis, that it's so important to have capital. And the last touch point is, at that point, we had about $2 billion in debt from expanding so quickly. So he's putting all that money, but he's accumulating debt, and he knows when to pump the brakes, because he said he had to scale it back. So you have to know as an entrepreneur when you're expanding too quickly, when to halt, and when to really be aggressive with growing. But you can see that he always thinks differently and thinks outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, and for him, it's I definitely have to give him his kudos because of the fact, like what you just mentioned, especially being a foreign businessman. I think it definitely has its challenges. In a lot more of the developed countries, and and obviously a country like the United States, or different countries in like a Europe or something of that nature, right? I think it's important because they're a little bit more developed, but he's in what they call, quote unquote, a third world country, especially with how these politicians are, how people do a lot of their operations back home, as we know, for our Africans, maybe Caribbeans, whatever the case is. It's hard. So for him to have had the understanding that, he's investing his money, but he's doing it in a way where, yes, he may be taking on debt, but he's taking enough where he knows that, okay, this is how much my company can withstand till I pull back, I go back in the back cave, and when I come out,
he goes into the lab.
Exactly. And then when I come out, I know exactly what's happening and how I can handle it. So I think that's important. Also, another thing that is very interesting with him is the fact of, unlike many of the wealthy Nigerians in Nigeria, so to speak, he actually didn't go into the oil and gas business originally. Now, for those that may not know, Nigeria actually houses the most billionaires in Africa right now. They have, I think, about 10 to 12. That's about a range of billionaires in there in Africa. a lot of people may not realize it because of the fact that, unlike America, where like a lot of these quote unquote billionaires are publicly put out a lot of their business ventures. A lot of the Africans, obviously, you know, they like to not disclose a lot of their business dealings for whatever reason. Obviously we know, we're not saying Americans don't do crook stuff, but they make it a lot harder back home. So again, that's important to note. He originally didn't want to get into the oil and gas business for whatever his personal reasons, but now it seems that he's actually wanting to, and he's actually looking to take it all and bring it back home to his native country in Nigeria. Enter Dangote Refinery in Lagos. So, Ramy, basically Dangote basically is building this refinery in Nigeria, where he's going to actually have it imported, as opposed to him going to export a lot of these back into the different countries in Africa. He's planning to have 650,000 barrels per day integrated into a petrochemical project under construction in the Lekki Free Zone near Lagos, Nigeria.
Yeah.
Now
it's gonna cost about $10 billion project.
Yeah, it's a $10 billion project. Now I know he's faced some backlash because apparently I think it was like Holmes there that he basically kicked some people out to kind of get it to basically to get the land that he needed to basically build this. But end of the day, I can't really fault that, in the sense of it's wrong, but at the same time, a lot of businesses do that when they're trying to build out a lot of these commercial projects. We can go to the Brooklyn Nets, even back here in the city of New York, where a lot of people got forced out of their homes. The rents went up like crazy.
A lot of people can't afford to live there anymore. It happens everywhere, man.
Yeah, it happens everywhere. So I wouldn't put too much into that. I think that's just a general thing. But I do have to we have to highlight exactly how important this could be potentially down the road. Because again, for the Dangote Oil Refinery, a company owned by the Dangote Group and Aliko Dangote, he's developing a project like what he said, Ramy, is about, he said 10 billion, right?
Yeah.
And basically in doing so, he's looking to basically house and estimated to hold about 37 billion barrels of proven oil reserves in Nigeria. Nigeria right now is currently the second biggest oil-rich country in Africa, and after Libya, which is the largest one right now. So that's important. Like we mentioned, a lot of the billionaires in Nigeria right now make their wealth through the oil business. So that's important. What he wants to do, though, is basically, like he said, he wants to have something where everything is centralized in the continent of Africa. They don't have to go to a lot of these European countries. They don't have to go to these Middle Eastern countries. They don't have to go to the Asian countries or some of even the American businesses. So in doing so, how may that affect somebody that maybe America or somewhere in Europe? Ramy, your thoughts on that? What do you think could potentially happen to some place like us over here in the States, or even in
Well,
Europe?
this could have major ripples through the global economy. You know, I feel like right now Africa has always been an importer of things, and as a result, you know, several economies of nations depend on that, you know, that business of them exporting to Africa. But now, once they see more places being able to be honest, I don't think people are going to like it that, you know, one of their, for example, best customers is now producing all their own product, you know. So this could force some more competitive pricing for global products and commodities. And this could also lead to some, you know, better quality of life in Africa when people don't have to pay, you know, tariffs and importing the import taxes of bringing in other products. So this could have major effects, but, you know, nobody wants to see a fully independent, like regulated place that they have always typically had control of. So I imagine they're not going to make it easy for him, you know. So that's why I like Dangote's style, because he doesn't need nobody else to provide for him. He's done it the right way, and he's reinvested in himself. Everything he's done, he's put more money on himself, and he's doubled down on it. And that goes to show how confident he is in his business mindset.
I agree. I mean, definitely, it's something where we definitely have to give him his kudos, because he bet on himself. He has the money. He has the fuck you money. The fuck you money is basically the money he could just throw around, because of the fact he knows that he's the richest motherfucker there. So who's gonna tell him otherwise?
Yeah, he doesn't have to do the oil thing. He's rich. He's plenty rich enough. He's the number one richest man in his entire continent.
Exactly.
But he has so much extra cash reserves from his revenue that he's putting more money into himself, and that again distinguishes him, whereas other people don't put as much money into developing their own line of products,
Yeah, and for me, it's a future way of thinking, because Africa right now is looking to get out of what Americans and Europeans quote as third world, so to speak. As you guys have been paying attention, electric vehicles are taking over the world right now, but it hasn't actually hit Africa. It's in different parts. But they're building transit systems in Africa. Nigeria right now got a contract to build out a transit system. What do transit cars basically run on? Gas and oil. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of these cars that are coming into so to speak Africa. A lot of foreigners are moving back home to Africa. Are from our generation. Our parents had us. So we're looking to go back, start businesses. So we're going to have money. And when we come in with money, what are we bringing? Cars. So what do cars need? Gas. So this is a benefit for him. And again, he doesn't become the richest man in Africa, not making investments that he knows that he's not going to win on, so to speak.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So again, here's something that he knows that is going to be a benefit for him. He's looking at who his competitors are. His competitors are the Chinese coming into Africa doing businesses, the Americans, Europeans coming in. So as opposed to him having to pay a large sum to these individuals in the other foreign continents, he has it in-house where he's making the most money. He's getting the best bang for his buck. And he now has to distribute to different people, and he gets the wholesale. He gets more of the capital as a result, because of the fact that it's coming from his company. Like Ramy articulated, he owns 85% of the Dangote Group, which is probably the most successful conglomerate business right now in West Africa and pretty much Africa as a whole right now. So I think that's important to note, that if you see Dangote becoming richer in the next 3 to 5 years, there's a reason why. It's going into these oil reserves that he's looking to basically build out. Ironically, the funny thing is, he actually has his investment group is the international bank led by Standard Chartered Bank, who has agreed to provide him $3.3 billion syndicated loan for this project. The United States Trade and Development Agency is also providing $2.3 billion to basically have this to have the training grant for the human resource development of the refinery operation. So Dangote also is utilizing
he's getting a lot of government and a lot of loan money, I see.
Oh, y'all thought he was using his own money? You would have thought.
That's the goal, to get big enough to just get the World Bank to give you a massive, like, $5 billion loan,
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask you, Charles, what do you are African, I am not. What would you want somebody, like me to gather from this whole discussion? What would be the takeaways that would be valuable? I mean, obviously to everyone, but, to somebody listening that might be like, oh, this isn't, I don't need to pay attention to this.
I think there's 3 things that I want to mention. The first one is from an investment standpoint. A lot of people don't know that even though you live in a country like Europe, you live in a country like the United States, you can actually invest into different businesses in foreign countries like Nigeria, excuse me, so to speak. Example, the Dangote Group is on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, which you can actually apply for. You can just Google search Nigerian Stock Exchange and actually invest your money through there. There's a lot of people I know that are doing it. I'm in the process of doing it right now. Now, don't worry, guys. For those that may be like this, oh, well, how do you know it's not a scam? This and that. It's not, because they're actually regulated much like the stock exchange here in the United States and in different other countries.
I read some crazy stat like that the Dangote Group makes up like 60% of the Nigerian stock exchange, total market cap, and it might even be higher than that.
Yeah, so and Ramy is right. The market capitalization, like example, when you hear like Apple is a $2 trillion market cap, which is basically what the total assets of that business. So just think about that. 60% the Dangote Group basically houses. The reason why is because they control so many different necessities within Africa, which is oil, sugar, cement. Now they're getting into basically oil and gas. So that's another thing in the basically business scope that they basically own. So again, for my investors that are looking to invest in different type of businesses, I would say look into different stock exchanges, not just the American S&P 500 stock exchange. You should look at the Nigerian stock exchange. That's an example, because I'm telling you, the way you build capital through the stock market is you look and diversify your portfolio. That can also be outside of what we normally know as just the American stock exchange. You can also look at the Nigerian stock exchange. This guy's business model, I'm telling you, for the audience listening in the next 3 to 5 years, is going to make someone very rich that is going to be invested in the Dangote Group. The next piece is for my foreigners, for those that may not be foreigners, having a powerful man like this in-house oil is an important thing anywhere that you go. Look, Tesla is doing well, but not everybody drives a Tesla. 80% of Americans alone don't drive a Tesla. So think about that. What do we usually get? Gas. You go buy gas at your BP, whatever other gas company you go to. A lot of these people go to foreign countries in the Middle East and Africa to get their oil. So if somebody like Dangote is saying, hey, I don't need to go to the Middle East, I don't need to go to Asia, I don't need to go to Europe or America to get this, I can in-house this myself and distribute this amongst the continent of Africa. That's a big problem, because now a lot of American, European refinery manufacturers won't have the oil to distribute and make their money. So how does that affect you? Gas prices may go up because of the fact they're not getting business for a lot of these refineries that they're reselling this oil to. So that's important to note. So for those people that may be paying gas, I would look at this, because of the fact is, as your gas right now is $2, $2 something because of the pandemic. If you're in the Northeast, maybe in the South is a little cheaper. You may be looking at it at $3 to $4 as a markup price in the next 3 to 5 years, because of the fact of, if they're not getting business with a lot of these foreign countries, because they're starting to basically, Russia's another country that Ramy, they may not know, that is trying to control a lot of the oil and in-house it through their own country. So a lot of countries right now where America and Europe and Asia is basically going to do their business in, they're starting to say, fuck you, we're going to do this ourselves and just have it in our country. Man. Exactly.
There have been so many wars and policies passed to just take control of oil. Don't let them fool you with these electric cars. Their oil is still going to be very prevalent for the next couple decades at least.
Exactly. I mean, not everybody has 30,000 plus to buy a Tesla. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of people, I myself, I drive a gas car. So again, and I'm probably going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, yes, California wants to go all emissions, electric vehicles, but not everybody's going to have an electric vehicle. Let's be honest.
Like good luck. So, that's going to take a long time.
Exactly.
They got their eyes on the oil, which is the prize.
Exactly. So that's just important to know. And I think the most important thing is, for every Jeff Bezos, there's an Aliko Dangote. So I think that's important to note. yes, we know the richest man in America, but I think for our audience, we also want to highlight individuals in other countries, in other continents that are also killing it in the game, that are also doing well, something that they could benefit their country, their native country, so to speak. So that's why I think having this episode to highlight an individual like this is important, because of the fact, again, a lot of people don't know who this guy is. A lot of my friends I know that I've spoken to, I've mentioned this name, they're like, who? But they don't know who it is. But end of the day, I think that's somebody that you can know, because again, a lot of these people are the people that are the culture shifters. Mm-hmm. Culture shifters are basically individuals that come out with a product idea that individuals gravitate to, and it changes the landscape of business for the next 10 years going forward. So that's just important to note. Again, this is Aliko Dangote. So this is important for my Nigerians. If I pronounce his name wrong, my apologies for my American accent. But I just wanted you guys to kind of have an idea, Ramy, right, for them to know about how to do foreign investments, how foreign business impacts business back here, how to basically invest on the exchange, the Nigerian stock exchange, for example. All these are important, and this is something that we wanted to just highlight. Ramy, your last thoughts for the audience.
Yeah, I mean, we did this episode not only as an inside look into the mind of a great entrepreneur and his journey, but also to open some of the listeners' minds to places that they might not have thought about before, which is, the reliance on oil, global economies, and how imports and exports really depend on each other, and how to invest in foreign stock markets, because a lot of people only know about barely know about the American stock markets, let alone there are stock markets in all these other countries. So there is a world of possibilities out there in terms of how to invest your money and how to grow your business, as seen by Dangote. And there were some really good lessons in terms of owning, starting, and growing a business that we could learn from the richest man in Africa. And I appreciated learning about him. So thank you, Charles, for telling me about him.
Oh, no problem. I mean, hey, smile. Ah! So basically, like, for those that may be listening right now, again, Aliko Dangote, which his last name is Dangote. Look up this man. I'm telling you, for the audience listening in, this man is doing something big that is going to affect the world. We at the Danso Pitch, we highlight individuals like this because we highlight the culture shifters. That is our term that we coined. We call it the culture shifters, which are individuals that may do a business or idea that changes the landscape of what the world will look like in the next 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. So again, tune in to this episode. I don't care who you're listening with, subscribe, give it to that individual, send this information that we've provided for you guys. Again, we're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Ramy, I love doing this podcast with you.
Yeah, man. It's been great, this was a great one. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you, man. Tune in. We'll be available, all right? All right, I'm out of here. Take care.
All right, later.